big discussion that we're going to try and do really quickly. So we're going to try and be efficient about this. But just to let you know, you're going to be getting lots of information about this. In this meeting, then, of course, follow-up information over the next month. Now, it's really not that difficult, but it'll seem like a lot of new stuff. So we're introducing some very kind of limited new strategies for managing performance in GovOps. And of course, the fact that we are consolidating, that we are integrating three former agencies provides the optimal time to establish a new culture. We've seen that with the SEAT values framework, which Jenny Reese has talked so much about. And we're trying to do the same thing with internalizing and integrating some really important performance management principles. So what we're going to talk about here is briefly, you can look at that agenda. Not all of these things are going to get the same amount of attention, but really number 3, the third bullet point, the 3 enhancements and the timeline for supervisors and managers and the demos and drafts, those last 3 are really, if I were you, where I'd really want to pay attention, okay? So many of you know we did a cultural assessment. We had a pretty good response rate. So we did a cultural assessment for all of DGO members in June and July. Interestingly enough, I'm going to try and explain this as simply as I can. We had a Likert scale of 1 through 4, 1 being not very good, 4 being good, for all these positive behaviors. Interestingly enough, if you look at DGO as an entire agency, the lowest 6 things that we got, meaning we got the most 1s or 2s picked, were the following. Think about where a lot of these fit. Providing performance feedback to employees as a whole, we rated ourselves low. Providing employees sufficient support for professional development, we rated ourselves low. Helping employees see how their work is aligned to organizational purposes and goals, very much a leadership behavior, we rated ourselves low. Creating an environment in which employees feel valued was rated low. Active listening also. And then how about this? Clearly communicating what is expected of employees for them to succeed in their positions. All of these, some more than others, but all 6 of these, we looked at this and said, well, this can be resolved primarily with more effective performance management, right? So this is self-reporting. This is what we identified in our own cultural assessment here at DGO. We're going to make these slides available to you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is from Gallup. Their recent research done that indicates how fundamental direct supervisors, direct managers are to the performance management culture and to the excellence of employees. I'm not going to go through this right now, but as we look to modernize state government and modernize, quote unquote, modernize our performance management, you're going to see a lot of these things addressed. And the good news is a lot of this came out in our focus groups as well, the performance management focus groups that we did. What I want to tell you is these things that we are introducing is really part of a 3-year plan. What we're introducing to you today, I hope no one feels overwhelmed, because there's no need to feel overwhelmed, even though it's new stuff. But year 1, we're calling this crawl, walk, run. And what we're introducing for this performance year represents crawl. And in fact, a lot of what we're going to talk about, you really effective managers are already doing these things. This is our attempt as an agency, as DGO, to institutionalize, to formalize those good practices that you're already doing. So you will be getting more stuff later, months from now, that represent, again, some incremental changes that would represent walk. But we won't walk until we've got crawl down. If that makes sense. So here are the 3, this is where I really need you to perk up. These are kind of the 3 new requirements, 3 new enhancements that we're doing. And we're going to go into these in detail. It's really as simple as this. The SEAT behavior. So we have the SEAT values framework that Jenny Reese has shared with everybody in the town halls. It's available on the DGO website. From that SEAT values framework, almost verbatim, we've created what are called the SEAT behaviors or SEAT competencies. And those are going to be available in every person's performance plan. We want to see behavioral expectations aligned, and we're going to show this to you, to the SEAT behaviors framework. Okay, just an overall goal that says employees will behave in compliance with these successful standards in the SEAT competencies or SEAT behaviors framework. Okay, that's one thing, simple. And in fact, what I would say, if I'm a manager, I will, when I show this to you, you're going to look at it and you're going to think of your employees and you're going to say, Well, this will take about 7 seconds for most of my employees. And if you have employees for which it will take more time than that, that's good. That means there's some behavioral adjustments that they need coaching on, okay? The second bullet point, each employee in their performance plan will have 2, on top of their kind of routine daily tasks or projects, will have 2 developmental goals. And I don't want to overuse this term, but some of us have been calling them stretch goals, opportunities to improve, right? Work on things that they want to. Now, one of these goals will be directly or indirectly tied to the SEAT behaviors. And we'll show you what we mean by that. So one is going to be a behavioral developmental goal. They want to become better customer service. They want to become a better team member. They want to work on their communication, you know, something like that. The second developmental goal that every employee in DGO will have in their performance plan is tied to some sort of task or project, something that can be clearly. So if I've got an employee that kind of just does the same thing every day, and that's okay, that routine work is okay, I want to give them some sort of developmental goal that's tied to something bigger than them, cascades from something that the division, the team, the division, or the agency as a whole is trying to accomplish. A lot of times this will look like a project, for example, but it's developmental. It's more than just their normal, oh yeah, they answer phones for 8 hours a day, okay? So that's the second thing, and we'll show you these. And then the third thing, which again, for a lot of you supervisors right now, many, if not most of you, are doing this already. We want to formalize monthly coaching and then quarterly progress review. In other words, JJ and Gary will talk to you more about this, but it's this idea that the employees and supervisors will now acknowledge that at least a monthly conversation about the employee's performance is taking place. Now, you're doing this already. You're talking to your employees about your performance, and if you're not, you should be. What might be new is this quarterly progress review. The literature, as well as the feedback we got from the performance groups, is that more clarity about how people are doing is wanted. And so in every quarter, you will give an evaluation, an informal evaluation to your employees saying we're calling this an on-track evaluation. Just in the comments, you'll say, JJ is on track to be successful right now. And if you've got an employee whose performance is not on track to be successful, you acknowledge that. And then, of course, you say what you're going to do about it. That gives you something that you need to be doing as a manager. Now, you'll notice there in the footnote that we recognize that right now we're managing all these things. We're asking you to verify, acknowledge these things. These goals will be populated in UPM. We are fully aware that UPM is not terribly popular, to put it mildly. Right now, though, it is what we have to keep track of things. And so we are going to put these things in UPM. But if you have some internal mechanism for keeping track of an employee's performance plan elsewhere, Trello, a Google Sheet, or something like that, that's fine. You can still utilize that, but these things will be populated in UPM, especially because UPM is how our information systems gather data to know that people are compliant and that everybody is following statute, so that every employee has an active performance plan, every employee has an evaluation. Okay? Now let me show you a little bit about what I mean. Now remember, it's these 3 things: the SEAT behaviors in every performance plan, 2 developmental goals, 1 tied to behaviors, 1 tied to projects or regular tasks, right, that can be cascaded up, and then the monthly coaching and quarterly progress review. Well, you guys have all seen this, and if you haven't, you should have. It's in DGO. This is the SEAT values framework. Well, to really integrate values into an organization's culture, you have to put it in other places. You've got to put it in the structures of the organization. So what we've done, and this is probably a little hard to see, this is the SEAT framework explained in competencies. Now, most of it, you'll notice, is taken straight from the SEAT values framework because it was written behaviorally anyway. Now, let me tell you what this is to look like. I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open up, and this is a Google Sheet, which is going to be put in a link is going to be put in every employee's plan, right? And so this is what we want, a goal tied to this, just saying that the employee will behave according to these behaviors. Now, when you're writing behaviors, it's hard to measure those things, okay? So what you want to do is you want to be as descriptive as you can. So what we've done in this Google Sheet, which will be available to everybody, is let's take service. Remember, we have customer service, peer-to-peer service, and public service. Well, what does that mean for this employee? Well, I would go, you've got this hover over. So for customer service, what do we mean by provide support and solutions to help clients solve problems in an efficient, innovative, and customer-friendly way? Well, just as an example, we mean that your employees are demonstrating they're customer-friendly in their tone, their body language, and their positive communication with a singular focus on solving our customer agency's problems. They're actively searching for creative solutions. For example, they're present and responsive in their communications, and they respond to customers in a timely manner. Each of these has a hover over that just explains a little bit more, okay? So this is how we want every employee, 1,300 of us or so, 1,200 or 1,300 of us, to conduct ourselves. Okay, very simple. So it's from this, every employee will have a goal. We're going to populate this for you that says the employee is behaving according to the SEAT competency or behavioral framework. And that's this. And it's taken from the SEAT values framework. Okay, so let me go back to this. Here it is. This is what it looks like. This is also this SEAT competency framework. You have that overall behavioral goal is also where you will take a goal, a developmental goal. Remember, the developmental goals are one behavioral, one task or project that's aligned to something bigger from the team, the division, or the agency. So as I scroll here, let me just show you an example of this. So I had to write a goal for an employee of mine that relates to the SEAT competency or behavioral framework. So this is real, by the way. I've got an employee, with their permission, I've been allowed to share this, and I wrote this somewhere not in UPM. And this is actual language. I'm not going to take you through all of this, but I've had an employee that wants to be more assertive. And we took that from engagement or empowerment. They want to be empowered, to be more assertive, to be more direct in their communication. So I like SMART goals. Right? Everybody does. There's a lot of research behind SMART. So what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to move here because I wrote this in a Google Sheet, but I want you to see what this would look like in UPM. It's exactly the same language. So there's UPM. I recognize that this might be hard for some of you to see, but there's a developmental goal taken from the SEAT competency framework, and it says Shane would like to become more assertive and proactive. In particular, Shane will make more decisions about how his work gets done, as well as the work he does that contributes to others. Included in this is the need for Shane to be more forward-thinking and introduce ideas about deliverables without being asked. And I just wrote this note here. This is relevant to the engagement, empowerment, competence, and behavior. See how it aligns to the SEAT framework? Further, this is especially relevant to Shane's professional development and to conversations between Shane and his previous and current boss. That's me. How will the employee accomplish this? Right here, everybody, I've got Shane will read The Art of Everyday Assertiveness and report to the team, ... I'm not going to read this whole thing for you, but I want you to see what this looks like. You'll also notice that right here, the time frame for this that I put in their developmental goal, at least right now, is the end of this calendar year. Because I said, you know what, Shane can do all this. We don't have to go to June 30th for this. Shane can do this, and we'll reassess at the end of this calendar year. I've got here how success will be measured. He's going to report back to the team. What support is needed for success? I got to purchase the book for him. I can't make him pay for that if this is a developmental goal. Okay, it's really this kind of simple. Okay, and this was done in conjunction and conversation with me and this employee. Now, let's talk about a developmental goal. The second one has to be related to a project or task. I'm moving through this really quickly, even though I'm taking a long time right now. So, JJ Acker, one of our things that we're trying to do as a leadership and organizational development team for DGO is expand our coaching and consulting services. That's a big thing that we're trying to accomplish as DHRM. So again, I wrote this like many of you do. We write our goals elsewhere. We keep track of it elsewhere. Well, JJ, to help with coaching, maybe we'll send JJ to get a coaching certification. He's a great coach already, but maybe it'll give us more credibility if we have coaching certifications. Let me show you what this looks like. Again, here's all this language. But I wrote it in UPM as well. Again, there's a 12/31 deadline there because that's when the certification should be received by. What will the employee accomplish? JJ will attend and pass the ATD Certified Expert Coach training in Atlanta, Georgia from the 14th to the 18th of October. How will they accomplish it? I just put in there, this is necessary for the coaching aspect of the LOD team services, including the CLIP assessment and a forthcoming 360-degree assessment. What support is needed for success? And this is so true. Again, it's very good to have the employee fill this out. JJ will remind Dan to secure funding for the certification. Also, I need to free up time so that JJ can accomplish all the pre and post course work required with his certification. It's a real hefty certification. It really means something. There's a lot of work involved. I got to give him work time to do that. And how will it be measured? I'm going to verify that the coaching certification was achieved, that he actually got it, that he passed it. If we're going to spend that money on it, he's got to pass it. Okay. So you guys, that is just a really, obviously you're going to be getting more information about this. We're here to help you with this, but the three main things are the SEEK competencies that every employee should have, a behavioral goal that will populate, and then 2 developmental goals, right? 1 related to behaviors, 1 related to projects or tasks. And then this monthly coaching review, which they'll talk about now, and the quarterly evaluations. It seems like a lot. I promise you, supervisors, most of you are doing this already. Now, I'm going to stop presenting and let Gary take over, if he would, to explain this. All right, I will turn the time over to JJ. Gary, if you'll start sharing your screen now.
Great, thanks, Dan. What you see in front of you here is essentially the timeline for this year. So by October 1st, each employee's performance plan will be populated with the 3 new goals that Dan has talked about. The SEEK framework, behavioral expectations, and the 2 developmental goals. And in a moment, Gary's going to further explain what supervisors need to do with these. So I want to talk a little bit about the performance coaching reviews. This is a best practice that we're advancing. Essentially, these are one-on-one meetings where performance and progress are discussed. And the content and the format for these meetings is really determined by you, the supervisor. That's really not dictated to you. But they might include discussions about tasks or projects, maybe the SEEK behaviors, or the developmental goals, and they don't have to cover everything every month, but maybe you're selecting something out to really focus in on that month. They might also include progress updates, clarifying expectations. Maybe you have goals that need to be recalibrated, or you need to set new goals, and some have been accomplished. Solving challenges, maybe you establish some course corrections if needed. So as Dan shared, the feedback from our department reveals that many, but not all, supervisors are engaged in this practice. And those who tend to do this also tend to have employees that report higher levels of satisfaction, and they feel connected to the organizational mission. Those who aren't are more likely to have employees who express frustration, lack of support, and lack of connectedness to the organization. So to strengthen this best practice, we're initiating a monthly AAA confirmation in UPM. The employee will receive a monthly AAA beginning October 1st that requires them to make a brief comment and acknowledge that a coaching review has occurred sometime during that month. And once this is initiated at the beginning of October, they'll also receive a weekly reminder until the employee completes the acknowledgement. Once the acknowledgement has been completed by the employee, then the supervisor will receive a request to acknowledge. And all it requires is a simple comment and a checkbox to say that it did happen. So as a supervisor, you might wish to inform your employees that these monthly notices will be starting on October 1st. We'll also do that, but more times that we can remind folks, the better. You'll also need to explain or review how they should respond to them. You might have something more particular that you want to see in the comment boxes, and that's up to you. At the end of each quarter, the supervisor enters a status report in the comment box. This can be as simple as on track for success or something of that nature. If there are required improvements or lengthy notes, they can be either identified in the comment field or detailed somewhere else in the performance plan. So the intent here is really to cultivate a practice that's known to strengthen both performance and the working relationship between supervisors and employees. It also moves us away from a reliance on the traditional annual appraisals that often really don't match the organic and continuous nature of work. It also avoids surprises or those awkward discussions that sometimes happen at year end. So the AAA is designed to be the least disruptive offering we have at this time. And the content and style of your coaching reviews, it's not prescribed. It's anticipated that you have your own best practices either in place or that will emerge over time. And Gary's going to demonstrate what you as the supervisor need to do with the goals that will be automatically populated into each employee's performance plan.
Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen right now is just two screenshots, what your employees' plans might look like currently on the left, and what they will look like after these three goals have been added, the behavioral goal and the two developmental goals, which are highlighted in the yellow here. All you'll need to do is for the developmental goals in collaboration with your employees would be to go into the goal itself just by clicking on the name of the goal to go into it, and just modifying the text boxes as Dan showed previously. Be specific about what the goal is designed to do, how it will be measured, and all of those things, just like you would with any other goal that you're currently using for your staff. Embedded in the or included in the template for the Seek Competency Framework is a link to that competency with the hovers over that Dan showed previously. We recommend that you add that link as an attachment to the employee's plan. And the way you would go about doing that is with the attachments tab across the top of the plan. So you'd go into the employee's plan, click on the attachments link or the attachments tab, which will get you to the actual attachments page. You would fill in the link name, which you could call it something like Seek Competency Framework. Copy and paste the URL from within that goal, as you see there, and click Save Link, at which point the link would then be added as an attachment to this plan, and it becomes a part of this plan, and it'll stay there for as long as the plan is active. The employee will be able to see it. You'll be able to see it. Once the plan has been finalized at the end of the plan period, you still, as a supervisor, will be able to see the attachments, and you can see these attachments on previous plans, even if your employees have just recently been moved to you. So this allows the attachment, the goals, everything to follow the employee if they move from supervisor to supervisor, division to division, etc. You can add multiple attachments using this functionality. So if you've got a Google spreadsheet or a Trello board or something of that nature where you're tracking the actual work being done by your employees rather, you can add those as attachments to the plan as well, so that by going into the plan itself, you have access to all of those things where the work is actually being done. We know that many of you have plans for your staff. We pulled some numbers this morning. There are 27 active plans in DHRM. There are 162 active plans in the divisions that were administrative services, and there are 456 active plans in the divisions that were technology services. It's possible that some of you have created plans for your employees and just have not activated them, so they're not showing in those active numbers. You may want to double check that your plans are active for your staff. Sometime later this morning or early this afternoon, we will go in and populate those three new goals to all of your active plans, all of your staff's active plans. So you'll be able to see those, be able to work with your employees, letting them know that these changes are coming, and kind of explain this process moving forward. So with that is the content we've got as far as introducing this information. We'd like to open it now up to any questions you might have with regard to anything we've talked about.
Go ahead, Matt.
So just to clarify then, if a person is in your leadership, what would you call it,
Downline.
under you in the performance management, then this will just continue and you will just handle your people. And then supervisors would have their people below.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Just like regular performance plans. And let me just say to everybody, so we're in the process of creating a job aid and other things, because I know this is a ton of information to get in a short amount of time. And again, partly we wanted concision because we know you guys are busy and we wanted to respect your time. This is really, I promise you though, there's always a little bit of, for lack of a better term, pain up front. And then this becomes just kind of old hat as we get in the habit of doing this. And again, I think JJ mentioned this, Gary might have mentioned this, and so did I, that a lot of this in terms of behavior, you managers, you supervisors are already doing these things. We must admit that I can imagine for some of you that are already doing this, like, why do I have to go and acknowledge this or whatever? It is an effort on our part to capture some of that information, as well as to really formalize these best practices that so many of you are already doing. I hope nobody is feeling, now maybe informationally you're feeling overwhelmed, but in terms of the time commitment, this is really what management is, right? And in particular, performance management. And so we don't think that this is going to represent a massive adjustment to your schedule, hopefully to your stress levels. But we do think that regardless of what walk and run look like, remember this is crawl, walk, run, we believe that the evidence that we've gotten internally from our focus groups, as well as our cultural assessments, as well as what we see from the research about performance management more generally right now, is that the more frequent ratings, the more frequent contact, the developmental opportunities, and an opportunity to help people understand that behavior matters to part of their performance, that the evidence for the need and the value of that is pretty strong. And so we're trying to make that a part of our culture right now. Other questions, other thoughts that you have about this process? Please.
And so it sounds like you will be adding these goals to the active performance plans. And if we discover that we need to have a performance plan for an employee that's not active, will there be a round 2 of a review of those to add those goals, or we just mimic what we see in the others to add those goals to performance plans after the fact?
Go ahead, Gary. We talked about that this morning. Mike, that's a great question. Gary, do you want to talk about what we do if there are no active plans?
Yeah, so the template is going to be available to you in UPM. So to all of the divisions of GovOps, it will be available. So you can add those goals from that template, or you can start with that template and add your additional goals to create a plan for your employees, if that's what you would like to do. We're looking to have all of this, as JJ mentioned, everything should be in place and moving forward October 1. So we'll take a look again, probably mid-September, to see if there are any additional plans that we didn't capture on this first go round that have been active or have been activated, and we can add those additional goals. Now, we understand that technology services currently is on a plan year where their plans are wrapping up in September. So we're not going to add these goals to the active DTS plans that conclude in September. So you would probably want to be aware of that template. when we get the job aid finished and available for distribution, it will walk through the steps for actually using that template to apply just the goals from that template to an existing plan as well. So if you choose to do that yourself moving forward, that's great.
We want to be respectful of everyone's time. We've got a half hour. I will tell you, we have padded this on our end. We maybe overestimated, but we anticipated there would be more questions or other comments or other things. We're going to stick around for a bit. Know, of course, that you are only going to be getting more information and hearing about this more, including town halls. This kind of thing, of course, requires, it'll feel like to you who are a part of this first group, maybe over communication, but really that's necessary for integrating this into what we do, into common practice. But we're going to stick around here and answer any questions that you have, hear any comments that you have either. But that's what we have for you. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being willing to participate in this as we establish this really solid performance management culture. But we will just be here, and we're ready to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question. This is Debbie MP. I just, on the seat framework that we save as the attachment in UPM, is that just the template that you guys have worked out, or is that supposed to be also our comments off to the side, our specific goal and so forth that we choose for the employee?
Well, let me see if I can answer that, Debbie. So the framework is there just for you to use as the basis. Now there's two goals associated. One of the general goal, it's explaining the behavioral standards we want for everybody at DGO, right? But and the hover over the comments, that's just for you to look at and be like, oh, this is kind of what is meant by it. It's just more information. But the other goal, of course, is the developmental goal related to it. And so that's another reason to have it on there, because you'll want to draw a behavioral developmental goal, and it should be directly, or in some cases, maybe less directly, but still kind of at least obliquely related to the behaviors found in the SEAT competency framework. And that's why that's there. But as far as comments and other things as it relates to an employee's actual behavior in accordance with that thing, those kinds of comments and other things would be found wherever the goal is actually written. In the template, in this case, it will provide for you, or in UPM where you can add comments. That's where you would want to put those kinds of things. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Other questions, comments, concerns? We got some good questions about when the slides will be available, when the recording will be sent to you, those that have participated in this. Okay. All right. I think truly now's a great chance to ask. We are here. And by the way, the other thing I'll say is please, in particular to the leadership and organizational development team, it's JJ Acker, Gary Scow, Dan Chase, Rick Murdoch. He's off this week, but you can reach out to him anytime you have questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We've got about 238 supervisory personnel in the new DGO. And if we heard from every single one of them with questions, we would make time to help with this process. So I think, unless Gary, JJ, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can probably call it.
I have nothing additional to add. Thanks for being here, guys.
I don't either. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, so much, and good luck with this process. You'll be getting, again, don't be bothered when you hear more about it, and reach out to us if you have questions in the meantime. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.